Yo, what's going on, deities? Welcome into another edition of Titan Talk. Hope everyone's having a great Wednesday, a great middle of the week. I'm Isiah. Kilgoon joining me as usual, and we're here to hang out, talk about Smite 2. What's going on, Killgoon?
Not too much. I got like the longest stretch of uninterrupted sleep that I've gotten since my son was born.
Oh, so you're feeling good.
I'm actually feeling pretty awake today, so that's going well. Other than that, exciting stuff coming in the world of Smite. Today is going to be a quieter day, I would say. We've kind of had a couple quiet days back to back, but we have a couple things to go through at the beginning. Then we're going to take some questions, and then we have some exciting things planned for the next couple shows. While Isiah will be out on vacation.
Unfortunately, I'm missing the good stuff.
But on Friday we're going to do kind of a little bit of a roadmap that you guys have been looking forward to for where we're going with next kind of wave of God releases and what kind of cadence and everything we're talking through. So something to look forward to. And then we're also hopefully going to have Ben on Friday to show you some of the stuff that we've been working on.
Yeah.
So Friday should be a really good show. And then on Monday we're going to be showing off Bari.
Yeah.
So Pawn will be on to walk y'all through Bari's kit. I think she's actually going to be Princess Bari in game. So
Princess Bari.
Got to rewire my brain and start calling her Princess Bari. Should be a hype show on Friday and a hype show on Monday. So
I know, just back to back.
Yeah, so we look forward to that. But because of that, we probably won't have a lot of time for questions either day. We'll definitely take some questions on, I know people have questions they want to ask Ben, so we'll take some questions on Friday. We'll take questions mostly about Bari, I'm assuming, on Monday. But we thought it was probably better just to have let's have a chill show. Let's take some questions and let's run through it all today.
Cool. So I will bring up the handy dandy laptop. I just wanted to go through.
And there was a question, Kellen next Wednesday? Yeah, probably Kellen next Wednesday or Friday. He still is planning to be on the show. We have we just kind of wanted to get a little bit further down the road first. So
yeah, we got the next few shows, some really awesome guests to come up and talk about all the cool stuff coming up Smite 2.
Just no Isiah, which makes me sad.
Unfortunately. I'll be back next Wednesday.
Yes, I will push some wrong buttons at least once during the stream, but hopefully it will all work fine.
Yeah, cool. Well, let me bring up the handy dandy laptop and kind of go over some of the hot fixes that have gone out over the past 48 hours. I think we've had like 3-ish patches that have gone out. So just to quickly run through all the bug fixes that have gone out. We fixed an issue where Aladdin's AO2 was difficult and inconsistent to cancel. Bloodforge has been re-added to the item shop. I will note that we are still looking into the issue with Prophetic Cloak. That item is still disabled, but the team is still working to get it back on.
Yeah, there's basically like an exploit around it where you could kind of stack infinite protections, and it was a little OP. So we're still working on fixing that one. But I talked to Kabir this morning, and he said it was the next thing on their list. So hopefully soon.
Sweet. The purchase button will no longer disappear from the store/featured page if you select a skin you own. Pinging the map while moving will no longer cause the player to stop moving. Gods on rotation should now sort at the top of the Gods page. I know we've got some feedback about potentially changing that for people that own the Founders Edition. I'm not sure where the team's landed on that right now, but I know that feedback has come in, and I definitely wanted to call it out.
Yeah, I think we found that that's a very important feature for new players, and it's something that Smite 1 does, but I believe that Smite 1 does also just kind of ignore that if you own the God pack. So maybe something we can do in the future.
Yeah. For Draft Lobby, other players will no longer persistently show as trade blocked on a trade pop-up if you decline their trade request. We removed the ghost red dot on the player profile, so if you're like me and have ADHD and have been trying to clear that should be fixed. We added missing descriptions for recent balance changes, so that went out on Tuesday. We fixed an issue where the meditation relic did not work in Assault. So that's polished up. And then Artemis's non-aspect traps should now stack correctly. So that was a hot fix that went out on Monday or Tuesday? Monday. And then for yesterday, we had a hot fix. Let me hide the cameras here. We put in a potential fix to address an outstanding Xbox crash. Thanks so much for all the people that reported that on Titan Talk on Monday. Definitely looked into that and got that polished up. Fixed an issue where the Purchase Diamonds button wasn't working on the chess screen. Put in another potential fix for the issue where Draft Lobby team widgets were not showing up. We fixed an issue where in certain situations, Artemis's Vengeful Assault was not applying the correct attack speed level. We fixed an issue where rebinds of 2 individual inputs would reset when logging back in. We added missing localization. We added a filter for on rotation to the Gods page. And then we fixed an issue where Magi's Cloak was activating from self Example: if you rocket jumped with the Ymir, you would break your bubble. So
and you
that
wouldn't
is
jump.
the-
It was the
yeah.
worst of both worlds. So that's fixed now.
Yeah, cool. So those are all the hot fixes that have gone out over the past 48-ish hours. And that was pretty much all I had to cover. Like Killgoon said, coming up this Friday and then Monday, we've got a lot of exciting shows talking about some upcoming content you can look forward to seeing Bari, hopefully on Monday, Flash Test, hopefully on that Tuesday after. I won't be here, but I will be watching from home on my side screen. But other than that, let's just hop right into Q&A unless you have anything else you want to cover, Killgoon.
No, that's pretty much all I got. Chill show today. Watch on Friday and Monday for a lot more hype stuff.
Cool. All right. Well, let me situate my chat here. That way I can read it. And we'll hop right in and chill with y'all for the next hour or so.
Yeah, we've heard the VGS issues since yesterday's update. We're still investigating. But if there are any more details of that you guys can share of specifically what is happening. We are looking into it. We have some things we've noticed, but we always just like more details.
Yeah. We touched on this on a past show, but let's reiterate because I think it's a good question. Do you mind explaining why classic skins went up in price just to have a chest sell the classic skins at their original cost, but at a random classic skin obtained?
Yeah, so that price that classic skins used to be was a sale price because we didn't have a less expensive way of obtaining sales.
Yeah.
That was never intended to be the long-term price for classic skins, and it's why they were always displayed with a 50% off kind of tag on them, because they were only on sale at that direct purchase price because there was not another way to buy them. And that's what we said when we first talked about the pricing changes, when we made those changes. Now that is out there, we have brought them back to what we think is still a pretty fair price with the way the currency works in Smite 2. Yep. That's why.
Let's see here. The assault bench is re-rolling me without touching the game. I know the team is looking into a slew of team bench issues, and hopefully we'll be able to polish up the ones that are super egregious. But if you could explain just a little bit more what you mean with that sentence, we could definitely take a note down and get that passed along to the team.
Yeah, there's another thing about some of the bugs here. So I'm going to take a picture. I will pass that back to the team. But yeah, thank you for letting us know.
Yep. Will future Wandering Markets ever have more than 4 pages of content?
I would say it's highly unlikely. There's already a lot of really good value for the amount of money that you're spending in a Wandering Market, right? It's only like $10. And if you have legacy gems, it's only $5.
Yep.
And you're getting, 4 skins plus a classic skin token plus a bunch of cosmetics plus 400 diamonds back. Like, it's a lot of stuff for the amount of money that they are. The only way that we would do a potential that I can imagine that we would potentially do a longer one would be if we charged more for it, which I think, has its own issues. I think it's more likely that we might do special event, not on the traditional Wandering Market collection kind of cadence, but say, here's a special single page event market or something that is available to purchase for a limited time around a holiday or something that is maybe only like I said, 1 page or something, but it has a bunch of different stuff that's related to that theme there.
Right.
God Builder will not be in the next update. We are still working on that. Yes, we are still aware that there are some issues with the map showing up over the item store. It has proven to be a very difficult bug to track down because it is extremely inconsistent, and we can't find a 100% this is the cause that leads to this happening. Right? We know that people can get into this state, but so far all of our diagnostics have not led to us finding exactly why people get into this state. So we're working on it. We're still researching it. If anybody does have, if I do exactly this, it always pops up in the wrong order. That is helpful to us.
Are there any plans, or have you considered adding an Ascension Pass pack similar to the God pack?
We discussed it at one point. I think it's pretty unlikely that we would do that. I think that, again, there's so much value in the Ascension passes, especially considering how much like diamonds you get back from playing them, that I don't know what we could price it at to be a fair price for both sides, right? For where we can make money and where you feel like it's a good purchase. We do have a way to get multiple Ascension passes quickly through the higher levels of the Founders Editions, and we think that that's a pretty good deal. But probably not a single purchase, you get them all at once kind of thing. We had similar conversations in Smite 1 around voice packs. People wanted like a God pack for voice packs. And that was also hard to do because so many people already own a lot of them, and there's so many ways to acquire them, right? Like,
right, yeah.
Because like Ascension passes, obviously you can buy them, but you can buy them for kind of two different prices, which are, depending if you have legacy gems, they're either full price or they're 50% off. And then you can get legacy gem tokens, and you can get them in the Founders Editions.
Right,
and if you buy a Founders Edition, but you already have that one unlocked, then you get a token that you can use to unlock anyone. So there's just there's a lot of different layers that go into it that I think it's like, it would be hard to wrap together into a system where it's like, here's a single purchase, even if we were able to come up with a dollar value that we felt like was, appropriate for buying that.
Yeah. I saw a question and it was long, so I'm going to paraphrase it, but TLDR, we're nearing the point to where we're going to have more gods available in game than we have for 50 levels for god tokens.
Yep.
Do you know when we plan on adding more god tokens per level?
As soon as we get to the point where you could potentially not purchase a god.
Okay.
The goal isn't that you can get into a state where you can ever not unlock a new god because you are a free-to-play player. We just didn't want people to stock up, with 1 million god coins that they wouldn't be able to spend. So as soon as we get to 51, we'll add another token. And then when we get to 52, we'll add another. It's my guess, right? So no, don't worry. It still should be pretty free-to-play friendly. It's just, play the game and you'll get the gods.
Yep. So we have co-op versus AI easy. Where are medium and hard?
Co-op. Okay. So right now our priority is making sure that the easy bot experience is good and is tuned to new players. I understand that for players that, and I think this is specifically for Arena. I think for Conquest, we just have like bots, right?
Yeah, I'm not
I don't think
sure.
that they're specifically flagged as easy. But in Arena, we've had to do a lot to try and figure out how to get bots into a state where new players can consistently have fun playing against them. And I shared earlier that like at one point in time, our bots were beating new players like 80% of the time, which is not good. Yeah. And it's crazy the amount of stuff that you have to kind of crank back to get bots, even if they're really, it's not just that they have to be bad at playing the game. It's that they have to not do things that frustrate players, and they need to put themselves into positions where they are easily killable. Right. It's not just that they need to not kill you. It's that they need to actively make it so that you can kill them and not run away too much and all that stuff. Yeah. So we're doing a lot of work on that right now. And I think that that's the most important thing for getting a good new player experience. From there, we are also working on harder levels of bots, but I don't have like a firm ETA on that. I believe Sineski's working on that right now.
Okay, nice.
But my guess is, in a few updates, we'll have the other AI difficulty levels. But our focus right now has just really been on nailing that easy bot experience.
Cool.
If a bot blinks and ults me, I'd be scared. If you're a new player and a bot CCs you, you are scared.
Yeah.
The easy bots do not use CC abilities, I believe. Like, I know they don't in Smite 1, and I'm pretty sure they don't now in Smite 2. So, like, there are so many, like, little things that it's just, like, in your first couple of games, you just need to have fun and run around and kill some people and not be overwhelmed at all.
I'm going to keep us on the bot/AI train. Why are we penalized for playing against AI in Smite 2? Limiting player worshiper rewards and progression for AI matches could discourage players and lead them to quit the game.
Smite 1 actually, I believe, was even more restrictive in this way. I believe that you got like worshippers up to level I want to say it was mastery level 3
Yeah.
in Smite 1, and I believe it's up to level 5 or 7
Yeah.
in Smite 2. So we tried to open it up to be more open and like, we don't differentiate your stats between the modes. And, we're trying to do more. Some people felt like because God Mastery in particular is such a visible one that it was more misleading if you load into a PvP game with people that have played a lot of a god only in PvE. So I think we felt like that was a reasonable thing to cap. But we could re-examine it. I mean, it's not, we don't really care that much. Like we just want people to be having fun playing the game. And for people to feel like their progress is valid.
The proxy changes are very smart for the very first wave of the game, but after that, there's no reason for the anti-proxy tech. I just wanted to call that out because the team is actively looking at feedback for that change.
Yeah, we've been getting a lot of feedback around it, talking the best way forward. We changed a lot in this update, guys, right? Like, and I think that overall, the general feedback has been pretty positive about most of the changes and a lot of the core feels things. There are some specific areas though that are not as good because it was a pretty big swing in a lot of different areas. So I think that this, the proxy protection stuff is something that some people are more sentimental about than others, I would say.
Yeah.
I would say that just kind of from a behind the curtain game designer perspective, right? Like all of our data that we have ever seen shows that people want to play a standard game of Smite when they log into Smite. They don't want to be invaded. They don't want to have their wave proxied. They just want to play, I'm in my lane and I'm standing staring at the person I'm fighting and I'm fighting against that person. And I don't even really want the jungler to come bother me, right? Like I just want to play a straight up game, right? And especially if you're a high level player, that's maybe not what you are looking for from Smite. So it's hard for us to always balance between like what's best for all players and what's best for the most engaged segment of players, right? And we really don't like to have different rules for modes between like casual and ranked, because then it's really hard to like transition from one to the other because it feels like it's an entirely different game that's being played. We've had a lot of interesting discussions internally over the years about like, do you push, like this is the extreme far version, right? So please don't think we've ever actually pitched this. But
Right.
I'm using this as an example, a directional example, right? Like omnipotence, right? Omnipotence is a really fun version of Smite. Should casual conquest just be omnipotence? Probably not, right? Like that's way too far, right? But like, are there things that you can do to make casual conquest more fun for casual players and separate it further from ranked conquest? Probably yes, but that would not be a good experience for people that hop back and forth between the two or trying to flow between the two if they just end up being two wholly separate things. Turbo conquest, speaking my language, yeah. Will the Ascension Pass ever get an update to go past level 10 and give more rewards, like God-specific jump stamps, skins, etc.? I think that I'm going to call this out because there was another question that was just a little bit earlier. It was like, I feel like it's way too hard to get to Mastery level 10 on Smite 2, whereas in Smite 1 it felt more balanced, even with the 25% bonus worshippers from the passes. It is unlikely that we add more rewards to Ascension Passes because not too many players are going to go through the trouble of getting a bunch of stars to get the extra rewards. We don't think it would incentivize play much more than it already does. And we think that you already get a lot of value back for your Ascension Pass purchase. You're getting, 450 diamonds back. You're getting 4 skins and the global emotes,
the
trackers, and like there's a lot of stuff in there. So I think that like adding more at this point in time is not going to add a lot of value to players because very few players are already at rank 10 and want to play more, right? And it's not going to drive a lot more sales. So it's just hard to justify. I would say at some point in the future, we've definitely had this conversation a lot, right? And like, maybe in a year or two when more people are like rank 10, we might come back to it and say, cool, we'll add some more stuff, right? But right now, I think it's just not, it doesn't add a lot to the game.
Yeah. Are there plans to add an accolade screen? And in the meantime, are they being kept track of in the back end?
I believe we are keeping track of all of your accolades right now. And at some point in the future, we will add some kind of an accolade screen. I think it's just there are a lot of UI things that we need to get done right now.
Yeah.
And how do you prioritize, right? And I've said this kind of a lot on this show, but it's like, we have a UI team, and do you want them to be working on, God Builder and HUD Editor and fixing item store bugs and that kind of stuff? Or do you want them to do, to do accolade screen and, our job as like developers is always like, and any studio is like this, right?
Yeah.
Every studio has some limit to the amount of resources that they have, right? And you can only do so much in a month or in 6 months or, whatever time frame you're looking at. So it's our job to try and prioritize the things that we think are most important to the game and to our players. And sometimes it's going to be, things like God Builder, right? Sometimes it's going to be like, oh, we really needed to get that sales, the new store screen into the last update, right? And that was a couple days of a UI programmer's work that could have gone into something else, but we felt like we needed to get that in, even if that's maybe not the number one thing players are clamoring for, because we need to have some ways to sell some stuff so that we can make money and continue to make more features in the future.
Exactly.
So it's like, it's always this balancing act about how do you make things that players really want and are valuable and make the game better, and how do you also make things that like we need to make to stay in business. So. Yeah, and sorry, I think I didn't answer the other part of this mastery question correctly, so I will come back to that. This person said, I didn't mean to increase the rewards for leveling the gods. I meant that leveling itself feels too slow. The rate of worshiper gain feels too slow. That's almost 100% because in Smite 2, we do not have worshiper boosters.
Yeah. And
worshiper boosters would double the amount of worshipers that you got in Smite 1, and in most matches, somebody would pop a worshiper booster. Right. So because of that, without worshiper boosters, people are earning XP at a reduced rate. We actually, I believe in this update, maybe the next update, we actually did a lot of the work in the back end to be able to have worshiper boosters come back. They're going to work slightly differently. Everything, we always feel like we have to change everything a little bit. I think the new way is fine. But pop in the pre-match lobby and, you get bonus worshipers for the match. Those are going to be coming back relatively soon. We just need to think of the right way to distribute those more than anything else. And then most of the tech is there. So that should help with the worshiper grind and not feel like it takes quite as long. The actual amount of worshipers it takes to get from rank 0 to rank 10 is the same amount as in Smite 1. And the amount that you earn per minute in game is the same as in Smite 1. It's just the missing worshiper booster that is causing most of the feels.
Can we add more skins to the store page? The featured ones make sense, but I want to see more available skins.
I think our intent is that is going to be that's going to be like the things on sale or new things page. And then if you want to see all of the skins available for a god, go into the gods tab and then go to the skins section in the gods tab. Or loadout, yeah. What we found in Smite 1 is that a vanishingly small percentage of sales were from our normal store page. Almost all of the sales were either from a god-specific page, like, I like Achilles. I'm going to click into Achilles and see what his skins are and buy the coolest one that I can buy. Mm-hmm. Or the other thing that's huge is the pre-match lobby, right? Where I'm about to load in the game, I can see all the skins that are available for the god, and I can buy the skin that I want right there. That is actually a very important thing to us, and I think it's something that we don't quite have yet in Smite 2. But yeah, so adding more stuff adding just like a comprehensive store is not something we have any plans to do because very few people ever looked at it in Smite 1. Yeah.
Have you considered showing death animations to only the dying player? This could add a lot of character without adding clutter to combat.
I have not considered that. I can bring it up to the team. I don't I don't have a lot of feedback there. Sorry for the short answer there. Didn't have another question ready.
Yeah, I know, right?
I wasn't
that out
prepped.
a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, there's another Magi's cloak. Cupid Heart Bomb procs allies magic cloak.
Oh,
there
that's
in
not
radius.
fun.
Cool. Got it. We'll pass that along.
Cool. Can we please disable Hecate aspect and assault?
We have gotten feedback that Hecate aspect is useless in Conquest and dummy OP in Assault and Arena and Joust.
Yeah.
So I think we are talking about that aspect internally. The way we could disable it in a specific mode, but the way that it's set up, there's like kind of some weird edge cases where people can still end up using it, and probably doesn't really work. I think there will be things happening for it. Yeah. I would almost certainly say in the next update, but I don't think we're going to disable it right now.
Yeah.
Have you considered not pushing your buttons? No, I'm joking. Anything that encourages you to not push your buttons, I think it's like. I think the problem is that like it's too hard to. It's up too much, and or it's too reliable damage. Like it's too hard to dodge the hits.
Is a Wheelish coming Monday or Tuesday? I believe the plan is for her to release next Monday. Correct?
Yep, that's the plan. Could you give worshippers based on kills and assists instead of match time? So we get a lot of requests around, you should give worshippers based on this. You should give me MMR based on my kills and assists and my individual performance instead of match time. The thing is that in a MOBA, it is your kills and assists only matter so much for victory.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and different roles are inherently going to get different amounts of kills and assists, right? If I'm playing, full support Emir actually does a lot of damage right now. If I'm playing full support, I don't know, Bacchus or something, right? Like I might set up the game-winning fight, and it's because of me that we won. But my stat line is 0, 10, and 3, right? Like I'm exaggerating slightly. I probably have more assists than that, right? But like the things that lead to success in our kind of game are not as directly like if you're playing, basketball, right? Basketball, it's like how many points did you score? And then obviously like rebounds are important, blocks are important, steals are important. Shout out Dyson Daniels. But like if by and large, when you look at the stats line, you look at points first, right? Very similarly, like Call of Duty actually does part of their matchmaking algorithm is like the amount of kills that you get in the game, right? Because in Call of Duty, all you're doing is killing people, right? In Smite, there's so much more to the game, right? Like if I drop 30 wards in the game and I don't get a single kill or assist, I might be the most important person in the game, right?
Yeah.
Because my team just could see everything the whole time, right? I could have body blocked the autos that saved my team member and we won because of that, right? So it's really hard to say you deserve more because you got more kills and assists. Those things can lead to winning, but they aren't always the most important thing to winning. Give worshippers based on everything then. Okay, sure. Yes. Okay, fine. You got me there. No, I think that like, then I will say the negative then, the other part of it, right, is that like, then if you do have a bad game and you, not only did you lose and you had a bad time, but you also didn't get anything for it or didn't get very much for it, that's like a double feels bad, right? It's like, when I lose, I at least like, at least I got a couple worshippers. It's like, I need a little something, right?
Yeah.
So I think that, vote for team MVP and the MVP gets a little bonus. Sure, something like that's fun, right?
Yeah.
Like I think that like things that give maybe a little additive something to somebody for being special is probably a better like design for our kind of game than trying to reward based on performance.
Yeah. Now that the tab menu shows every player's roles, what are your thoughts on having
for the love of God,
static role order?
I'm sorry. I this has been on my list of things to talk about for a while, and I have forgotten to do it. So I'm going to write that down.
Good idea.
Yes, thank you for reminding me. Yes. Sorry. Thank you. I will follow up on that.
Yeah.
when can we expect more polymorph abilities like Hera? There's already one in the game. Play Kernanos.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, use Kernalt. But, at some point in time, like, there could be more new gods that have polymorphs, right? It's just another form of CC that where it makes sense for the god, we use it, right? God picking the last few seconds notify you when you're tapped out of the game. It should notify you when match picking starts.
Yeah.
And if you tap back in and then tap back out again, just pick a god while you're tapped in. Like, I'm not trying to put you on blast, but I don't know if people would appreciate having a second, hey, last chance kind of thing. I will half answer this question. Everyone asks, what's the next god? But I'm curious, what's the last god on the list? The most difficult to develop, least popular. So we don't have the entire list laid out.
Yeah.
Right? We, generally speaking, like to plan. We should have a really good idea what we're doing in the next, 2 months. Like, almost to as close to precise as we can be. We should be like, these are the things that are shipping in the next 2 months. Then we kind of have a pretty good idea wish list for the next 6 months.
Yeah.
And then we have a rough, here's what we think we're doing for a year, basically. And then once you get much beyond a year, it's it's not worth thinking about it because it's going to change, right? Because game development's really hard. And everything that you think is going to go a certain way does not go that way, right? Because we get feedback from players that something else becomes a priority, or something takes longer on our side, or something that we think is going to be really important for the game becomes not important anymore because something else has served that purpose or whatever reason, right? So basically we have a list of gods that we think we're going to do in the next year or so. And then we have a list of gods that have not yet made it on that list. And there are some that we're well, these are probably priorities to get on the list soonish.
Yeah.
But we don't have this is the last god that we're going to get to, because to some extent it does depend on the community, right? If the community tells us, overwhelmingly, and not just on Reddit and not just on Twitter and not just on Discord, but if the community is united that, man, we really need this god, right? Then we'll do what we can to get a god in earlier, right? There's obviously a pipeline. We were talking about this last time. It takes about 6 months, from when we start thinking about a new god to getting the new god out. It's a little bit shorter for classic gods, but still it's several months, right? It's not just we go like this and the gods in game. But we are willing to be flexible. We don't have a definitive last god. But it's probably Fafnir. No, I'm joking. It's probably Fafnir.
Oh man, our poor short king.
I know.
Let's see.
What am I looking at when I'm talking? I have a very bad habit of just kind of looking around randomly when I'm talking. I look into the skies for thoughts. And if I'm looking over there, I'm looking at Isiah.
Yes.
If I'm looking over there, I'm looking at the camera. Otherwise, I'm just kind of looking at nothing. So
yeah, we also have a screen to where we can see ourselves at the front. So sometimes we'll look at
that's the screen. We can see ourselves. So I'm looking there, I'm looking at myself. Yeah. I'm looking there, I'm looking at the camera. I'm looking there, I'm looking at Isiah.
There you go.
Yeah. Have we considered adding rewards for placing gold, such as team gold for placing awards? I like that idea. I like ideas that encourage people to place awards. If you remember, our initial Smite 1 design was or Smite 2 design was everybody has a ward button, right? But we do not have. We needed to add other stuff in. I had an idea of every time you go back to base, you just get a free ward. I've had a lot of ideas along those lines. But I like rewarding people for warding. I think that's a good idea.
Is the algorithm that handles role assignment being looked at? It feels like I tend to get my third and second pick support and jungle more often than I do my first.
It's possible that your first pick is just a lot of people's first pick.
Mm-hmm.
And the way the algorithm works, it will try and give you your like one of your top 2 picks more than anything else, right? Like it does weight your first pick, but it kind of weights your top 2 picks a lot. So it's possible that it's possible that you just have like a unique role selection that works in a way to where like the game almost always decides that the best way to guarantee you get a role that you like is to give you support. Yeah. So that's a good question. I'm curious what your number 1 role is.
It's mid. Yeah.
It's mid. So it's mid, support, jungle
Yeah.
are your top 3. Okay. I'll ask Max.
Yeah. And the second part was, can we get a graph that shows the role preferences for the entire player base? I think Max tweeted that out. Yeah. If you follow at InnocentRabbit _ on X/Twitter, Max is always tweeting out cool data and stuff for matchmaking and stuff like that. So.
Let the support ward more for cheaper or free compared to other roles. Yeah, that's an interesting idea. So like so if you had a support starter item, then somehow affect warding. That's an interesting idea.
Yeah.
I like ideas. Yeah, Eye of Providence is a support active, obviously, right?
Right, yeah.
But like it's especially at all levels, and especially at new players level, it's really hard to convince them to spend their gold on something that gives them wards, right? It's much easier to say, I like stats, I like damage, I like tankiness, right? And I like effect that, makes me blink forward or whatever, can turn into a pig. So I think that interesting thoughts.
Why can't we see God aspect stat changes on the God page? I believe that's something that is currently on the UI backlog. I'm not sure when it's going to make it in, but it's something that the crew is working on.
I have seen people saying that they want Baron's ult to have the full power displacement back. I'll say we've seen the feedback. I'm not a balanced person, so I don't know how they feel about how he's performing and if that is what he needs. Yeah. But I'll say that we definitely have seen that feedback. Is Fenrir the next god? Always.
Always, yeah.
Always. I'm not trying to avoid saying that word, Pig Olson. I'm just trying to think of a nicer way, perhaps.
Yeah. Let's see here. Would we ever consider bringing back classic tier 5 skins? And if we do, would they be available for just legacy gems?
It's hard to say. I would say right now we are leaning towards probably not, because each tier 5 skin has a ton to it.
Yeah.
Right. It's multiple models with multiple FX sets, each with some unique, like tech that makes it work, right? And if we brought them over as the tier 5s, but without all of that stuff, then I think people would be upset.
Yeah.
And the cost that would be associated with doing that versus, especially if we were going to give them for legacy, 100% legacy gems, it's just, it's not that I'm being cheap, but that, if I can spend that effort on bringing over more gods or, more new content to the game, I feel like that's a better use of the resources right now. I will say, we have talked about potentially taking some of those tier 5 skins and taking a form and bringing that one of the forms over and treating that as a classic skin. So it wouldn't be the full tier 5 experience, but it could be kind of like a throwback to some of the tier 5s. I don't know how the community would feel about that, but it is something we have discussed internally. That is more likely, I would say. See, and here's the base form, Archon Thana. I'm sure most people would say max form, Archon Thana, please. So it's hard to figure out.
Yeah.
We just answered your question, Argoth. Let's see. Rewind it 3 minutes. 2 base form over max Archon enjoyers. That's crazy. Yeah, the Uller forms could be separate skins. You know, like stuff like that where we don't have to. Actually, I guess Uller. Well, no, because the Uller forms, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. We'd have to look at that one. That one might be harder. But yeah, theoretically, stuff we could do. No worries, Argoth.
Yeah.
Sorry, I
like
just
10 minutes.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to put you up last. Sorry, I just thought that was funny. Oh, you know what? This is a good question.
Cool.
And I will ask, would it be possible to have consumables be a tab on the side of the item shop? Scrolling up from normal items consistently is kind of tedious, and I feel like it would remind people about wards. So we initially were like, that was kind of part of our initial design way back in the day. But the problem was like navigation to it on specifically on controller was going to be really hard with like, we've got filters and we've got consumables and we've got the item grid and we've got like, it was just overwhelming. But now that console has its own thing again, and we don't have to worry about what works everywhere, I would say that's theoretically possible. One thing that is on the my list of item store improvements, which should be coming soon, is when you click on an empty item slot, it should just, or an item in general, it should just open up on the right side pane a grid of, here's all of the consumables that you can buy. So not requiring you to scroll up and not doing the filter thing right now, which is really annoying because then it's like, now I have to unclick the filter to get back to looking at the list of items I was looking at. Just you click on the item, it shows you the grid. If you click on the consumable slot, it shows you the grid of consumables on the other side. But yeah.
Will we eventually, in quotation marks, change the Green Knight in Joust to a different model now that we have Achilles in game? It looks weird when they are side by side.
I have not heard any discussion around that, but I can ask.
Yeah.
Oh, that's an interesting question. When Mordred attacks, there's a window after when he can dash. Can the timer start at the end of his abilities instead? That's a good question. End of abilities. Start. Yeah, that's a good question.
Yep. When we get to the point of making a new Conquest map, will we move out of the Greek theme? It's been present since Smite 1 Alpha. I think it's kind of way too early to tell, but it's also kind of iconic.
Yeah,
right?
I was literally going to say the exact same thing. It's kind of iconic, kind of early to say. But I think we are willing to, we're willing to consider a lot of different things for it.
Can we have a complete that item when I'm back in base button? It takes so much time to get back to the item shop after buying wards.
So maybe another thing that should be not 100% sure, but I think it's going to be in this item store update is that if you build a component, it's going to recall what tier 3 you were building into. So that then if you go back to that component and you click on that, it'll pull up that tier 3's grid.
Nice.
So it's much quicker to get back to the thing that you were trying to finish, but it would not be queuing it to finish. It just would be, I can get back to finish it.
I remember what you were looking at before.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think that should make it a lot easier to do everything in the item store. But it is not the queue for autocomplete. I'll add that as a note, but that I'm guessing that's a much bigger feature. Lotus Plunge wants to make music for Titan Talk for free.
Ooh.
Wants to be a part of Smite. We actually might need a new theme song. Our license for this song, I think, is running out. So hit us up. Yeah. We could talk.
Can we have it so party members who close the game leave the party? Currently, they stay, and you don't know if you should queue or not.
Say it again.
So if I have someone in my party and they close the game, can we make it to where when they close the game, they automatically leave the party?
No.
Rip.
Sorry. The way our party system works, I don't think that like the game. Let me ask. I don't think that we currently are getting that information when you close that we should quit you out of the party. So I think it would be, it's theoretically possible. Yeah. But the question, like, also if you just like, if you're an Xbox and you just close it and the game doesn't know that you've closed, like the way that our party system works now is not like a persistent connection the way it was in Smite 1, where we would know if person no longer exists, they're gone. Instead, it's like an, I don't even know the way to describe it because I'm not a tech guy. It's like an API call where it's like ready for match, in party kind of thing. But I can ask.
What's our stance on porting skins that were limited in Smite 1?
I think we're open to it. I think that it's a different game, so we aren't necessarily committed to the limited tags the way we were. Yeah. Best platform to contact. Twitter, if you're on Twitter, would be great. Yeah. Or does that seem reasonable?
Yeah.
Hit us up on Twitter. There's a question here about denying, which I think is an interesting question. Yeah. I got to find it though because I lost it because I was answering the where to make contact with us. I can't find the actual question now. I wanted to read it because it was worded in a way that led to an interesting answer. But basically, has denying enemies from minion kills ever been an idea thrown about for Smite? For example, you can do this in Dota 2 and Deadlock. We have talked about every mechanic that has ever existed in a MOBA and most games that are not MOBAs, I would say, right? Like, because that's part of game design is being aware of what other developers are doing and talking about what works for them and why it works for them and what makes it good for their game and good or bad for your game. Yeah. So I think there are pros and cons to minion denying. I would say that I think it's very interesting. I don't know if you saw the patch notes that a certain game pushed out yesterday, but they've actually walked back minion denying, and now you do not have to last hit minions anymore, and you just get gold for being in the area, and then you have to last hit. You still do have to last hit the dangly thing to get to get the extra stuff, but when you put more emphasis on that, it takes emphasis away from fighting, and it allows players to push leads in ways that are very difficult to recover from and difficult for players to understand why they are losing in an action game setting. In a top-down MOBA, it's very easy to like follow. I'm looking at the minion is dying. I click on the minion. I got it. Cool, right? Smite has never had like that true, like you have to do the last hit of damage to get gold at all. There's a bonus for it. There always has been a bonus for it. But that's because like when you're playing an action game, there's like this concept of cognitive load, and there's so many things that you can balance at a time. And it is just physically and mentally more demanding to control a character in third person than it is to control a character top down. Yeah. Because you have to be moving more buttons. You have to be looking and thinking in different directions. You can't see the whole screen at once. It's more difficult. And very frequently, more so than in like a top-down MOBA, players will become like honed in on, I see the person in front of me, I'm trying to fight the person in front of me, or, like whatever they're doing, right? It's very easy to become tunnel visioned in a third-person MOBA and miss the value that you're not getting from killing minions or denying minions or whatever, however the gold is tied to minions, right? So Smite has, because of that, because we think that the flow of the game is best when players are like fighting each other and when they're actively like running around and doing things. Yeah. Because in an action MOBA, you just want to be running around and doing things most of the time. It's more fun to like go try and clear a camp and fight over a camp than it is to like fight over last hitting minions. So a lot of our like wave clear is balanced around that. A lot of our like pacing is balanced around that. And it's a different approach to game design that we think is better for action MOBAs and is the reason why we have developed in that way. So, it's things we've talked about. I don't think it's going to come anytime soon. I would say like you can deny people from getting gold in Smite 2 by like forcing them away from wave, right? Yeah. If they can't approach the wave, then, or you hold the wave and you let your minions, if they're not at their tower, if they backed, right? Like very frequently it's a good idea to actually just like kind of kill the wave slowly out in the wave and, make sure they can't get the gold because they're losing minions to minions, right? There are creative ways to play around that aren't just like, I have to be fighting over every minion, which we have found action MOBA players do not like. Yeah. So maybe too long of an answer, but it was an interesting question.
Yeah. Can I have some more clarity on what displacements a Wheelish can pull now that knockup isn't a thing?
I think
that's good feedback.
Yeah. I don't know how to answer that, but yeah, I will. Yeah. I'll ask. Okay.
Dun, 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 dun. Why is the feedback link in game not working? That's a good bug report.
I didn't know about
I'll
that.
pass that along to the crew that sets those up. See a report that the Thor Hellforge hammer is not showing VFX. I think that's an issue on all platforms, and I noticed it just because I've been watching people play with the aspect a lot, and it's supposed to have the perma VFX, and I don't think I've seen the VFX on the hammer for that skin or the Frosty the Thor man skin either. Yeah,
make sure Ben knows about that.
Yes, after this. I will get that over to him. When you get market coins in game from Twitch, it doesn't show a pop-up. Yes, that is known and being worked on.
Can we add a way to disable jump on controller? You can already. There's a setting that says disable jump, I believe, and then your right stick will just be interact.
Let's see here. We talked about we're adding more god tokens. As soon as there are more gods than levels available, there will be more opportunities for god tokens.
Yep. Don't worry. We're gonna add more tokens
at the top.
We do not have any intention to bring back the old split item store. I understand that there are some PC players that grew to like it while it existed. It was always a good store, but currently don't have any plans to do that. If you do the left aligned store, it's pretty darn similar. It's not, it's obviously not split. It's just all on the left, but it does have that kind of more vertical approach. So I would give that one a try and see how you feel about it. But we think it's very challenging to support that store with two completely different input methods, and we don't intend to do that.
Yeah. Would saving clips of bugs and glitches help? And if so, is there a place that I can send them? Yes. Any sort of video evidence or anything that you have, stream clips, videos, more than helpful for the team. You can either use the bug report forum or you can go to our official Discord. There is a bug report forum that I know Kabir and QA literally spend almost all their day looking at and finding issues to get fixed up.
Yeah, and I would say if you bug report, if you're using the bug report forum or you just post it wherever, make sure if you're posting it on like Google Drive, which is where a lot of videos that are shared with us are posted, make sure we have the rights to view them.
Yes.
Very frequently you have it set to where it's like, only I can view this file. And then we have to request permission to view the thing. And if we want to share it with somebody else and that person has to request permission to view the thing, just leave it to where anybody on the internet can view it. And it's a big help for us.
Might be too technical, but any idea on if DLSS/FSR could be used with other anti-aliasing methods than just TAA? The game looks very blurry and has a lot of artifacting with TAA on, but it's the only way to use DLSS/FSR at the moment.
Yeah, my understanding is that that is the way that those algorithms work, is that they, by default, will use TAA in all cases, right? And it's kind of like if you pick TAA and then you pick DLSS, then it's using the DLSS version of TAA, which I believe is superior to just normal TAA, but it's not, there's not a way for that to work without it being TAA, is my understanding. If anybody wants to correct me, you can do so, because I am not a technical person. But I had this conversation with the person who implemented it, and they said, like, basically based on the specs from, NVIDIA, that was what they saw. I have a call with NVIDIA on Friday, though, so maybe I can ask them.
Yeah, you can get some more info.
DLSS 4. How many people have the 50 series cards yet? Those are...
Yeah, I know, right?
You got a lot of money if you got one of those.
Are the CC interactions being looked at? For example, when I use Hercules 2 to knock up Ymir, he is somehow able to freeze me midair. This is just being one example. That is probably a result of CC buffering.
Could be.
If you haven't tuned in, or if you are joining into the Smite 2 train after we announced that change, there's a blog on the website. Basically, CC buffering is a new system in Smite 2 that allows players to buffer CCs to continue firing an ability even after they were hit with a CC.
Yeah, I'll say, we get a lot of questions about having a more Pantheon versus Pantheon theme for maps. Something we've investigated in the past, and something that we can look more into the future, because I think there's a lot of community feedback. I think the challenge is always like, how do you make it feel like a cohesive map and not just like we slam two maps together? So that's kind of been the thing that's held us back in the past, but definitely something we can look at more in the future. This is an interesting question, and I don't know if I have a firm answer for you, but with the addition of Aladdin and the previous edition of Cthulhu and such, there has been an upsurge in demand of other literature, lesser folklore characters to be added, such as Dracula or Robin Hood. What's your stance on this? Where does the line currently go? We have had discussions about almost anybody that you could remotely consider a god / character that you might think is playable in Smite, right? And I think the line kind of depends on, I don't want to say like the moment, but it's what feels right for the game at a given time and given everything else that's in the game, right? Winnie the Pooh and Smite. Winnie the Pooh would be over the line. I think, but like, for example, I think if we did, one that comes up all the time is Paul Bunyan and Babe the Blue Ox, right? American mythology, maybe too niche for the rest of the world, but, very fit, or Johnny Appleseed, right? These famous American folklore characters, right? Theoretically, I could see those characters working in Smite personally. And I don't think that the addition of those characters to Smite would make the game feel as though it had jumped the shark into a world where they're just putting anybody in that game now, right? If we put Winnie the Pooh in the game, that would be jumping the shark, right? I think that people will be like, what the hell, Winnie the Pooh? I can't see that character as a god or legend in any form, although I love his stories, right? Like, I just watched the movie recently with my toddler. Right. It's great. But I think that I think Robin Hood is kind of a similar character where it's like, you can squint and you can say Robin Hood probably could fit in Smite. Yeah. Maybe a little bit risky, right? But I could say that, right? But I think that character, the one that I think we have the most arguments about internally over the years has been Dracula, right? Because Dracula is a legendary character who kind of fits, but there's something about Dracula in particular that to me feels like it's maybe a little bit too much. Does Dracula fit in this world? I don't know. Yeah. To me at least. So, I think we just, we're just people trying to figure out what we think is the best fit for the game based on what we see at a given point in time. And it can always change one direction or the other. Yeah. And we'll just kind of keep working on it.
Cool. All right. Well, we are at 1:59, so it's time for
One more question. I'll say
you're about to answer one. Yeah.
I'm shocked at the number of people that are not Johnny Appleseed, Babe the Blue Ox,
right?
Henry Irons fans. These are
I know, right?
These are iconic characters in America.
What's the guy with the lasso? I forget his name.
Davy Crockett?
Yeah.
No, I don't know. I don't know the lasso guy. I will answer. Wendigo is actually a character that has a lot of really dark roots behind that we will almost certainly never do, right? So I probably not going to touch that one. Yeah. Ted Lasso. That's what it was. It was Ted Lasso. You were trying to remember.
He is a god for sure. Are there any chances of multi-queue coming, especially in regards to helping smaller regions like Asia and Australia pop games faster?
I will say never say never, but I don't believe that there is work being done on multi-queue right now. There is quite a bit of work being done on matchmaking stuff in general about how we can improve the experience. But multi-queue is not something that we're currently discussing.
Cool.
And I got to pick one now. Yes, Wendigo is a cannibal spirit. Yes, that's why. One of the reasons why we don't really want it. And there's a lot of dark stuff around it. I got to pick one. I'll answer this one. When are you going to let us buy new gods with tokens? We still believe that it's okay for there to be some benefit to owning the god pack.
Yeah.
And for right now, that benefit is you cannot buy the most recent god with tokens. We're okay with that for right now. We think that that's pretty fair. If you look at there are games such as Rainbow Six Siege will not let you play the new operators at all for the first 2 or 3 days if you don't own their pack. There's no way to get them. And we really believe that most players who are playing Smite seriously should own the God Pack and do own the God Pack, to be clear. So I think that I understand that there are some truly free-to-play players who are like, man, I own all the other gods, and the new god came out, and I can't play them for a week, and that feels bad. But we would love it if you have it in your heart to spend $30 to buy a god pack, right? We think it's still a good deal, and you get 5,000 diamonds back if you're already at level 50 and can buy, some cool skins or Ascension passes or whatever your heart desires, right?
Wandering Market.
Wandering Markets. Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff in the game now. And one of the things about being a free-to-play game, and I've had this told many times to me by many different people over the course of my career here, is that the number one problem with a free-to-play game is that it isn't free enough. Because we market ourselves as a free-to-play game, but we rely on selling things to stay in business and be able to keep making this game, right? And there's certain lines that we kind of have to draw, even though they feel bad, of, this thing costs money, and maybe it even costs more money than it would in a game that was $60, but you didn't pay $60 to play the game, so it kind of balances out a little bit. So I know it doesn't always feel great, but that's kind of how we're pretty happy with. Can't use a token on a new god in the first week.
Cool.
There's an Alani check.
I know, right? Yeah.
So
we cannot
do need to answer this question. Sorry, I'm sorry, chat. We were so excited.
I know,
today.
right? It is Orange Kiss for me today,
and I found Cherry Twist.
I wanted a Cherry Twist
hiding in a different refrigerator.
I looked in the wrong refrigerator today,
so I'm pretty pleased with my Cherry Twist.
Maybe next time I'll get a Cherry Twist.
Yeah.
But, chat, thanks so much for hanging out with us for our Wednesday edition of the show. I'm going to be out on some PTO Friday and Monday.
Have a great time, man. I'll miss you.
Killgoon will still be here. We got a couple of really exciting shows lined up for this upcoming Friday and next Monday.
I will try not to break the stream. So hopefully we will be here on Friday and Monday. No, and then we're going to have God Roadmap plus Ben probably talking about art on Friday. And then on Monday, we'll be going over Bari with Bon. And it just should be an exciting couple days. So lots of fun stuff to look forward to.
Absolutely. Well, chat, thanks so much for hanging out with us today. I will see you all next Wednesday, but be sure to check back this upcoming Friday with Killgoon and Ben for our next edition of Titan Talk. Until then, we will see you all on the battleground. Have a great rest of the day, everyone. Peace.